So good morning and welcome. Welcome to the session on improving access local initiative to enhance innovation, support for sustainable mining. Before we start, I want to acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Sami people and that we honor their enduring connection to this land. I'd also like to thank the OECD, the European Union, the University of Lapland, the Regional Council of Lapland, JTK, and all the organizers and participants for this event. Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And yes, so as the saying goes, anything that is not farmed is mined. So therefore, mining is an important activity for our communities and for our livelihood. Mining it enables the modern world that we are living today. But as we want to pursue a sustainable future, the need for innovation in the mining industry is more urgent than ever. With growing regulatory demands and the push for responsible practices, mining stakeholders need to seek innovative and creative solutions that resonate with local realities. So the most impactful innovation often also come from engaging directly with local realities. With the understanding of the local realities and complexities, we are able to generate more sustainable initiatives. Today, we will dive into these challenges and opportunities, and together we will explore the path towards a more sustainable future with mining. So our panelists, each with distinct expertise, will provide insights into how collaboration, technology, and community engagement can drive meaningful change. Now let me introduce our panelists. So in the order of presentation, our first panelist will be Eric Hagenroth. I'm pronouncing that right? Yes. Okay, thank you. So Eric is from LTU Businesses in Sweden. Eric is a senior business consultant and project manager at LTU Business, specializing in mining ecosystems development and SME internationalization. With over 20 years of experience, he brings valuable insight into the collaboration between large mining companies and innovative SMEs. Eric's presentation will focus on challenges and opportunities in the mining ecosystems of Norrbotten in Sweden. Welcome, Eric. Thank you. Okay. And then next we'll have Dr. Hedda Hall from the University of Waterloo, Canada. And Dr. Hall serves as an associate professor and academic director of the Masters of Economic Development and Innovation program. With a focus on rural and northern communities, her research explores the intersection of technology and mining innovation. She will discuss the success factors behind the mining innovation cluster in Northern Ontario. Welcome, Hedda. And our next presenter will be Dr. Thomas Pusila from Circular Economy Center Digipolis in Finland. As the director of Digipolis, Thomas drives initiatives in the circular economy within the mining industry. And with over 20 years of experience across various sectors, he advocates for a sustainable business model that promotes social acceptance of mining operations. His presentation will delve into circular economy strategies in Kemi, Tornio, Lapland. Welcome, Thomas. And next we will have Francisco Paris from the EITI. Francisco is a seasoned expert in innovation and research, leading projects that enhance transparency in the mining sector. His extensive background in political economy and natural resource management position him uniquely to address governance challenges in mining. He will highlight the importance of transparency and stakeholder engagement in mining innovation. Welcome, Francisco. And last but not least, we will have Jenny Lou Campbell. Jenny is the Executive Director of the Indigenous Center of Excellence for Mineral Development. And Jenny has various experiences throughout the mining industry. And it's wonderful to have Jenny because she's also from an indigenous community, and it's fantastic to have her here, to have her voice and her experience. Her presentation will show how the innovation opportunities for indigenous communities in mining regions. Welcome, Jenny. So now that all our panelists are here, I'd like to welcome Eric to start. Thank you.
Just move on. Hello, my name is Erik Hångerud, and as she said, I've come from the region next to this one, slightly to the west, the northernmost region of Sweden, Norrbotten. First of all, thank you to Lapinliitu, University of Lapland, OECD and GTK for organizing this. It's an honor to be here. I would like just to start to put Norrbotten in perspective on the European mining map. We have today 5 active mines, maybe some more coming in the next 5 to 10 years. Around 8,000 people directly involved in the mining sector, or the mining and quarrying sector. In 2011, when the iron ore price was at the highest, it was 1/5 of our regional gross regional product. Today, it's around between 12 and 15%, which is equivalent to the importance of mining for Australia and almost double for Canada. LKAB in Kiruna is the world's largest iron ore underground mine. It's been running for a long time. And Boliden Aitik outside of Gällivare is Europe's 4th largest mine, copper mine. If you look at what is the outcome, Norrbotten is actually one of the really productive regions in Europe or in EU for minerals. More than 90% of all the iron ore comes from the region of Norrbotten, and more than 10% of the copper. We have a huge ecosystem connected to the mining industry, both academia, suppliers, mining companies, education, a huge number of SMEs. We have basically all the ecosystem in place in our little region, which is 1/4 of Sweden, but only 250,000 people. If you look at what is driving innovation, what is making it work, is that we can have all the networks that we want, all the clusters that we want, all the hubs that we want, but they will only work if the SMEs, if the innovative SMEs or the innovators feel that there is business around the corner. The clusters in itself does not create any value. It has to be somewhere that you see that from the SME's perspective, if I invest my time, energy, and resources into this, it needs to drive my own business. And therefore, we have taken another perspective of getting innovation into the mining sector. We start with unsolved challenges that the mining companies have or technology providers, saying that this is something that hasn't been taken care of. We haven't solved this. We have tried but haven't solved this, and we need help to solve it. So we describe the challenge, and this is a challenge from LKAB. We describe the challenge in a way that it's quite high level. It's intentionally quite high level, not to steer the innovative solutions coming in, but to open up to innovation, not only from the mining ecosystem, but also outside the mining ecosystem. And it's also high level because we need to put it into context and make the environment understandable also for innovative SMEs that has never seen a mine or that has never been connected to the mining industry. So it needs to be put in context. Where does this challenge exist? In what context, in what environment, and what are they looking for to solve it? What we saw from the beginning, we did a big study. What we saw from the beginning was that there was a mismatch between the mining companies and the innovation drivers, or the innovative SMEs. The mining companies or the technology providers, they said that even if we have large own R&D departments, number of people doing research and development, the technology development today goes too fast. Even if we have enough resources, we don't have enough competence. And if we have enough competence, we don't have enough resources. So we need to bring in innovation from outside to expand our own operations. And the SMEs, they said it from another perspective. Yeah, sometimes it's okay. It's okay to come in. It's okay to come in and discuss. Maybe it's okay to do a pilot testing, prototype testing, a pre-study. But then we always talk to the innovation people, not the operations people. And when the pre-study or prototype test has been done with the innovation people, as soon as it's moved to operations, there's a huge gap. And they are not ready to take on this innovation coming from outside. So then we decided we're going to do it in this way. We're going to create or start to try and create a mining arena where we connect big and small. And what we said also was that it's a little pond of people, companies, basically almost always, all of them knowing each other. And in order to bring in innovation to solve tomorrow's challenges, we need to open up the ecosystem for innovation outside the ecosystem. And that's why we said we need to describe the challenge in a high-level, contextual sense, so that even if you never worked with the mining, seen the mine, you understand the problem. And the goal is to bridge this gap between large and small. And also, one of the biggest goals for our work was that we need to expand the ecosystem. We need to welcome in innovation from other ecosystems. The automotive industry, the process industry, the forestry industry, whatever. And have that innovation adapted and put into operations in the mining sector. And when we did an evaluation of the first 3 years, more than 50% of the innovators has never seen a mine and has never done business with the mining sector. So we also try to expand with innovation outside, bring it into the mining sector, and having dedicated operations within the mining companies, owning the challenge and owning the solution. Yeah, that's basically it. I think that's what my 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm really excited to be here to share some insights from my research on mining innovation and technology adoption in Sudbury, which is the region or the city where I was raised. Before I start, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that much of my research takes place on the lands of the Atikameksheng Anishinaabeg and the lands of the Wahnapitae First Nation. And I would also like to recognize the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. I'd also like to share my deepest respect to the Sami people. Thank you for welcoming us to Sampi, your traditional lands. For some reason, sorry, this map isn't quite showing up. The slides aren't matching what I had, so we'll just roll with it. But if this was working, you'd see a map of Canada that would have Ontario highlighted. and Greater Sudbury not floating somewhere in Antarctica, but technology glitches are kind of my thing, so we'll just roll with it. But if you've never been to Sudbury, this is where the OECD mining conference was last year. So for those of you who did attend and got to see our wonderful city, it is the largest community in Northern Ontario in Canada. It has a long history tied to the mining industry and currently has one of the largest integrated mineral complexes in the world. Over 50% of the provincial mining output comes from Sudbury, and the mining sector directly employs over 5,500 people in mining and processing. It is also internationally recognized for its regreening efforts, and if anyone saw Meredith's presentation yesterday, she spoke about that, or if you were able to visit Sudbury last year, you would have seen some of those reflected on the landscape. It's also home to one of Canada's largest mining innovation systems. And over the next few minutes, I'll share the story on how this innovation system evolved, some of the key organizations and initiatives providing innovation and commercialization support, as well as programs that are providing funding to SMEs. The story of the mining innovation system in Sudbury begins in the late 1970s, and this was a time when the major mining companies in this city started downsizing and outsourcing services and production due to a number of external economic forces that were happening globally. By 1981, the major mining companies had cut approximately 10,000 jobs at their operations. And one of the things that happened with this release of labor was that many of those miners decided to stay in the community. And they were armed with what us nerdy academics like to call tacit knowledge, so that knowledge that they gained by being in the industry working for those companies. And they started creating their own small and medium-sized enterprises to serve those same companies. Throughout the 1990s, we see the development of a number of institutions and organizations emerge focusing on mining innovation and supporting that growing number of mining supply and services companies. But the cluster wasn't formally recognized until the early 2000s. And this is when the city's economic development officer highlighted that there was the presence of about 200 to 300 firms at that time supplying the mining sector. Subsequent research by David Robinson, who's an economist at Laurentian University, also highlighted this existence of a cluster. And this confirmation led to the mining supply and services sector becoming a key engine of economic growth for the city. Today, the mining innovation system in Sudbury includes 9 operating mines, 2 mills, 2 smelters, 1 nickel refinery, and over 300 mining supply and services companies that employ over 14,000 people. So more people work in the mining supply and services sector than they do in the actual mines. There's also a university, which includes a school of mines, 2 colleges, and a number of other institutions and organizations that are supporting mining innovation. Some of the innovation and commercialization support organizations include NORCAT. And if you were part of the Sudbury conference last year, this was one of the tours that folks could have gone on. I had a chance. It was phenomenal to be able to go, particularly to their underground mine. It was created in 1995 at Cambrian College after the president of the college and a dean traveled actually here to Finland to learn about government-funded innovation centers. And NORCAT specializes in labor training. They're also a provincial regional innovation center and provide support to early stage tech startups and entrepreneurs through mentorship, a catalyst fund, and having space available for entrepreneurs to work. One of my favorite things about NORCAT is its underground center, which provides an operational mine that small and medium-sized businesses can use to develop, test, and demo their innovative and emerging technologies. This is a huge advantage because the mining sector in Canada is often seen or described as in the race to be second, meaning that major companies are often risk averse when it comes to technology adoption and are looking for proven technologies that won't impact productivity and safety. There are a few other organizations that are working as well in the innovation and commercialization support, including the Center of Excellence in Mining Innovation. It was created in 2007 to accelerate step change innovation in the mining industry, particularly with regards to underground and surface mining, mineral exploration, improving end-to-end productivity and operational performance, and reducing the environmental impact and improving sustainability. There's also the Center for Smart Mining at Cambrian College, which was recently created in 2019, which focuses on technology adoption in the mining sector. Their areas of expertise include digital technologies, underground communications, mechatronics engineering, battery-powered and connected mining vehicles, and alternative tailings treatment technologies. They offer access to lab space and equipment, as well as specialized technical, business, and commercialization assistance, as well as training. So they've just created a new industrial battery electric vehicle maintenance course to provide new skills on some of the new pieces of equipment that are being adopted in the sector. And finally, Merarco was created in 1998 and is focused on solving mining industry challenges through applied research in 5 core research areas: biotechnology, geomechanics, safety, software, and engineering. In terms of access to funding, there are a number of different federal and provincial, so state government programs supporting SMEs and commercialization. The longest standing that have been available to entrepreneurs in the region include the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, or NOHFC, which is a provincial government agency that provides both public and private sector funding, and also the Federal Economic Development Agency for Northern Ontario, or FedNor, which provides support for businesses and not-for-profits. But there are others, including the MICA network, or the Mining Innovation Commercialization Accelerator Network, that was created by the Center of Excellence in Mining Innovation in 2021. And it was an initial investment of $40 million from the Government of Canada's Strategic Innovation Fund. MICA has since grown to a $112.4 million pan-Canadian initiative, bringing together stakeholders from a wide range of fields, so much like what Eric was saying, to really accelerate the development and commercialization of innovative technologies to make the mining sector more productive and sustainable. MICA invests in Made in Canada solutions and also provides a network to grow intersectoral collaboration to increase the number, scale, and market reach of Canadian SMEs. And before I turn things back over, I did want to highlight one of my current research projects called Remote Control, which is a multi-year research project exploring technology adoption, economic development, and the future of work in the Canadian mining industry. We're focused on 4 regions across Canada, including the Kootenays in British Columbia, the Yukon, Northern Ontario, and Newfoundland and Labrador. We're just wrapping up our final reports, and over the next month, we'll be releasing regional case studies on each of those 4 regions, as well as technology case studies on electric equipment, autonomous systems and remote operations, and data platforms. I'm happy to chat more about this work, particularly as it relates to some sustainability, and in the Q&A, or you can find me at the coffee break. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all here up in the north. It's a long way, but I fully believe that it was worth of it to come over here and see the midnight sun and feel the spirit that we have here in the north. My name is Tuomas Pussila, and maybe I can count myself as a local. My hometown is 100 kilometers to the bad south, as was mentioned in the beginning. But as you may have noticed, that Finland is the land of long distances, and 100 kilometers is nothing, or 1 hour drive is nothing for us. So I think that there has been clever words about the innovation and ecosystems in the previous presentations, but maybe some words about the circular economy. I think that this circular economy is very vital when we are speaking about the mining, and when the mining companies like to have the social acceptance also. So you have to try to maximize the amount of material that you are taking out from the ground, and circular economy comes to this business. We have been playing around with the circular economy more than 10 years, so for us it's nothing new, to be honest. We have been finding out solutions how to cover the side rock piles from the industrial side streams, slag, biochar from the bioproduct mill. We have also made some projects with the mines where we try to see are there any valuable minerals in the side rock piles. So for us, the circular economy is not the new black, to be honest. Also, some other bio-based solutions, what we have tried to find out, fertilizers and that kind of things. We are owned by the city of Kemi, but of course we are not only serving the city of Kemi, the whole Lapland, the whole Finland, that's where we are dealing with. Also, nowadays we are doing more and more with the promotion of industrial circular economy-based solutions and advocacy, internationality, and pilot and demonstrations. There are the things where we are dealing with. So, Kemi-Tornio region, highly industrialized area, only 100 kilometers down there. What we have there, the European only chromium mine, and I think that the Kittilä mine was set on the table as a great example with the great relationships. So I must be honest to say that they are also doing good work in Kemi mine. Hardly any of the citizens of Kemi has something to complain about that. And then there are also some great lessons to learn from Kemi mine, how they are doing things. Also, we do have a big steel factory compared to SSAB in Sweden, for example. And then, of course, bioproduct mill. And also, we used to have a Stora Enso's paper mill with the 4 paper machines in the past, but nowadays they have closed down the mill and now we are selling this area. So far we have got more than 100 business cases. Companies have contacted us and please tell us how we can do business in that area. And over 90% of these business cases are based somehow to the circular economy. I have heard some stories that no way, there won't be any future for the circular economy. It's not valuable business, but I think that this interest shows clearly that there really are companies that are willing to do circular economy-based business. And also, I think that comes to the mining business somehow more and more in the future. I think that there was a great story about this mining area, mining arena, and I think that this is the more or less the similar system what we have here. We have smaller companies that are serving the big ones. For example, Tapojärvi, oh sorry, I thought that there is this laser somewhere, but never mind. This Tapojärvi company, for example, they have made great subcontractor work for Outokumpu, utilizing the slag, for example. Now they are opening up business in Italy, in Greece, you name it, all over in the Europe. I think that's the great example how the SMEs can learn with the help of the bigger ones. Of course, in the very beginning, there must be a challenge, a problem that we are solving together. And when we find out the solution, then we can copy it and paste it, do it all over in the world, not only in Kemi-Tornio region. Also, I think that this Metsä Group opens up great solutions that we can utilize, for example, in mining. A lot of different kind of side streams, what we can use for the covering the sides, rock piles, and that kind of things. So here we are, in the middle of everything. That's the must if we want to SMEs to grow up. Innovations, ecosystems are networks. Networks are built on trust, more or less. We are independent player, broker between the companies, between the authorities, R&D institutions. So our aim is to boost the innovations. Our interest is not to steal the idea. That's what we need to build up the innovation ecosystems or circular economy-based business, or you just name it. Circular independent broker is a must. Economy is growing very fast in Finland, in Lapland, in Finnish Lapland. It's based on the tourism, it's based on the forestry, it's based on the mining, but what we need are creative SMEs to keep the world's cleanest air, cleanest water also in the future. And also we need these innovative SMEs that we keep this growth going on. The Rolling Stone, gather no moss. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, the host and the organizers, for having the opportunity here to talk about the EITI. If I found, yeah. My name is Francisco Paris. I'm not a local, but I'm a neighbor because I come from Norway. I live in Oslo, where the international secretariat of this organization has been hosted by the Norwegian government and others for almost 20 years, 18 years. So I wanted to talk about this. I think this tool, this transparency tool, speaks to what we discussed yesterday and obviously today. So it's all encompassing. What is the EITI? The EITI standard, which I have here, is the global benchmark for transparency in the oil, gas, and mining minerals. How it works is implemented by each of the countries. We have more than 50 countries implementing the standard, from Papua New Guinea to hopefully Chile in the future. We are in conversation to have Chile, 20-something countries in Africa, etc. So we work sort of a franchise kind of arrangement. But the center is governed by the EITI board. We work with all of the countries. There is an international secretariat, as I said, based in Oslo. We are around 50 people there, providing support to all of this. So we work with 50 countries, and we work and are supported by 60 or 70 of the biggest oil, gas, and mining companies. You see all the logos there. And we work with around, I would say, probably more than 500 civil society organizations across all of these countries. And the logos you see here is pretty much more the international networks of civil society. The standard here is to codify information points across what we call the value chain, which is not the value chain of upstream, midstream refiners. It's a different value chain. It's a value chain from natural resources on the ground up to, as yesterday Juan, I think, said, remembering your logo and the OECD, getting better life at the end of the spectrum. But the value chain we call it here is have to do with all the legal framework, all the formal arrangement that allows this extraction to happen, exploration and production activities. So this is the activity, and then it's the revenue collected from the industry to the government, how this revenue is distributed across the national, subnational areas of government, or how the country is split, and the social and economic spending. All should result in what we call it sustainable development. This sustainability was one of the works today. This was created 20 years ago because of conversation around the millennium and around the sustainable goals and all these conversations some of you remember. At the regional and local level, how does it work? All of these information points resonate at the local level because we saw it yesterday. You have to deal with the legal framework. Yesterday we talked a lot of permitting. We call it licensing, but it's the same. Contract transparency. It is clear. Contract need to be transparent, so everybody knows what is the rules of the game, who are the beneficial owners of the companies exploiting, operating, and the state participation, fiscal revenue, and then at the regional and local level, social contributions, social and environmental payments, if there is any quasi-fiscal expenditures, and any other economic contributions, and of course, and when here economic contribution had to do a lot with local content, all of these things that we also are alluding today. And of course, environmental informations. So around the world, how the EITI pretty much, you saw all the logos of the 50 countries implementing the standard. They all have a national commission, always composed of government, civil society, and industry. This tripartite DNA of the industry, of the standard goes across all global and subnational. But in practice, many countries have taken the EITI more local, more to the regional level in various ways. So I have here an example of, in Peru, they have 10 regional EITI. So apart from EITI Peru in Lima, there are 10 mini EITI in Moquegua, Arequipa, Piura, etc. The example here is from Piura. In other countries like Argentina, the local governments implement the standard in their own way. They don't replicate the structure of a tripartite commission at the regional level, but they adopt all the principles and all the information points here. In other countries, it's simply of targeting information emanated from the implementation of the standard to local audiences, as you see a couple of examples there. We work also on the thematic needs of the days, and obviously energy transition, community participation in the energy transition, how to take the lessons from 20 years of data here and lessons to the so-called renewables and alternative energies. So we have done our homework and tried to have these lessons learned and things that need to be taken into consideration in the era and in the theme of the moment. And some of this, I will leave some of this in the desk outside. And final work on research, and we are here also, a lot of colleagues from universities. Well, the EITI is a mine in itself for information and data if you want to check and cross data for your research interests. So with that, I think thank you very much for the opportunity, and any question and more information, again, I will leave I was told not to print too much, so I print only the QR codes. But thank you very much.
Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the original stewards of the land, the Sami, who have cared for these lands and waters for generations. It is with deep respect that I recognize your enduring connection to this territory and honor your traditions, knowledge, and ongoing contributions to sustainable stewardship. Ani Bojo Kinawea, Jenny Lou Campbell, Nandishnakas, Ganapa Jingnadonjaba, Makwado Dem. I'm introducing myself in my own language, in Anishinaabe Moan, and I acknowledge the strength of my people and keep alive the teachings and traditions passed down through generations. So miigwech, and thank you to the organizers and the hosts for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jenny Lou Campbell, and I'm Anishinaabe Kwe from Serpent River First Nation and Bear Clan. My community is located in the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory, which Heather mentioned earlier, and it's located in Northern Ontario, Canada, along the beautiful north shores of Lake Huron. I currently serve as the Executive Director at the Indigenous Centre of Excellence for Mineral Development and reside in Sudbury. My community and all First Nations are places with deep ties to the land and waters, and those connections shape much of who I am and how I approach my work today. I bring with me the perspectives and values of my community as we explore ways to support innovation and sustainability in mining, recognizing that the health of the land and the well-being of Indigenous peoples are fundamentally linked. So today, as we discuss improving access to innovation support for sustainable mining, it's important to remember that mining occurs on lands with rich histories and cultural significance. With that, I would like to begin by sharing and reading a piece that reflects the spirit of connection to the land and community in my language again. In Go Dwe, one Gizit Anishinaabe, one Anishinaabe family. De Benjaged Gisun Anishinaabin Akin, Gipidguan, Gadane, Minido, Waditsuin. Creator placed the Anishinaabe on the earth along with the gift of spirituality. Shkode, Nebe, Aki, Noden. Gibid Gostun and we, Nogduendamong, Montpi, Shkokmigang. Here on Mother Earth, there were gifts given to the Anishinaabe to look after. They are fire, water, earth, and wind. De Benjaged Giminon, Getchtwa Wendagok, Anishinaabin, Wa Nagdunjen, Ninwa, Nishwaswe, Kino Madwanan. The Creator also gave the Anishinaabe 7 sacred gifts to guide them. They are Zagidwin, love, Debwewin, truth, Minadenmoen, respect, Nabokawin, wisdom, Debwadenzawin, humility, Gwekwatsuwin, honesty, Minwa Akadewin, and bravery. Debenjaged Kimin Gona, Debwinwe, We Nogdawendawin. Creator also gave us sovereignty to govern ourselves. Kamna Denina Gabe Shwebak, Minwa Nongo Mingwa Eshwebak, Minwa Gayabe Wani Shwebak. We honor and respect the past, the present, and the future. So before I get into speaking about Indigenous innovation in mining, I'd like to briefly introduce ICMD, the Indigenous Centre of Excellence for Mineral Development. So we are based in Northern Ontario, and our vision is to be the primary source of knowledge and resources that support meaningful Indigenous participation in mineral development. Our mission focuses on capacity building so Indigenous communities can engage on their own terms, whether through business development, environmental stewardship, or workforce initiatives. We operate as a single window approach, providing centralized information, referrals, training tools, and research access. So as you see here, our work connects 3 core areas: information and research databases, tools and training resources, and referrals and liaison services. So all of this is designed to support our community's interests, priorities, and opportunities in mineral development. Indigenous innovation is place-based and relational. As we discuss mining innovation, it's critical to remember that most of these regions exist on Indigenous lands and territories. Yet Indigenous entrepreneurs, innovators, and knowledge holders are too often excluded from formal systems that shape innovation funding and strategy. The images that you see here, the mother bear and her cub, the moose and its calf, remind us that Indigenous knowledge and traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK, are rooted in land-based systems that are relational, intergenerational, and deeply connected to the environment. These are not just symbols, they represent sophisticated knowledge systems for managing land in ways that protect future generations. Likewise, the image of the 3 hands from different generations speaks to Indigenous innovation as relational and intergenerational. It's about governance, partnerships, and decisions made not just for today, but for those who are going to come after us. Innovation isn't only new technology, it's also about new governance models, equity partnerships, and Indigenous-led pathways to resilience. grounded in relationships with the land, the water, and all living beings. So that's what a sustainable mining future must reflect. One of the biggest barriers to Indigenous participation in mining innovation is what I call the Indigenous innovation gap. This isn't a gap in ideas or capacity. It's a structural gap in access. Many mining innovation programs and funding ecosystems were designed without Indigenous governance, knowledge systems, or economic priorities in mind. So this means that Indigenous entrepreneurs and communities are often left navigating systems that weren't built for them. The image you see here, illustrating the infrastructure gap for First Nations in Canada, reminds us this is about more than funding alone. It's also about the digital, financial, and research infrastructure needed to meaningfully participate in innovation networks. Indigenous communities often lack broadband, access to capital, and proximity to research institutions, which limits opportunities for Indigenous-led innovation. And finally, relationships between funders, mining companies, and Indigenous innovators remains fragmented. We need better, more coordinated connections built on trust, equity, and Indigenous-led priorities to close this gap and unlock real innovation potential in our regions. So how do we begin closing this innovation gap? It starts with fundamentally changing how programs are designed and delivered. First, we need to co-design programs with Indigenous communities from the ground up, ensuring they reflect Indigenous governance structures, our knowledge systems, and our economic priorities. We also need to strengthen applied research collaborations between communities and academic institutions, and these partnerships should focus on community-identified challenges to ensure research is useful, local, and applicable to land-based realities. Critically, we must fund Indigenous-led innovation hubs. These organizations act as bridges, connecting Indigenous entrepreneurs, knowledge holders, and youth with innovation ecosystems and support services. And we need to go further by embedding Indigenous knowledge and priorities directly into funding criteria. So this will ensure that sustainable mining innovation isn't just about technology, but about governance, stewardship, and relational accountability. Finally, let's not overlook the need for culturally relevant application, reporting, and accountability processes, because true access means systems that Indigenous communities can engage with on their own terms. So when we talk about integrating Indigenous knowledge into mining innovation, it's important to move beyond theory and identify where it's already making or could make a practical, measurable impact. There are several key areas that I will highlight, and this is not an exhaustive list of these opportunities. I've just chosen to highlight a few. So first is mine site reclamation. Indigenous-led restoration practices are incorporating land-based knowledge and culturally relevant indicators, like the return of medicinal plants or animal migration routes, alongside Western science to assess land recovery. Second is water monitoring technologies. Innovative projects today need to be co-designed with Indigenous communities using both conventional water quality data and culturally significant health markers like changes in fish behavior and spawning sites or birthing grounds of our animal relatives to monitor the ecosystem health. Third, climate adaptation and biodiversity management. Indigenous knowledge systems can anticipate ecological shifts and inform the design of adaptive mine operations, including closure and reclamation plans that consider future climate scenarios. And finally, land use planning and impact assessment. Indigenous guided mapping can identify culturally and ecologically significant areas before development begins, ensuring that these areas are protected and that mining operations are planned with the land's long-term health in mind. They aren't hypothetical, they're practical opportunities for innovation, and they're essential to building sustainable mining futures. If we want to meaningfully advance Indigenous innovation in mining regions, it requires intentional, regional, tailored actions. First, co-governance is critical. Innovation programs must be co-designed and co-managed with Indigenous communities, entrepreneurs, and organizations, ensuring that our priorities and values are built into the decision-making processes. We also need to fund Indigenous-led innovation hubs like ICEMD. We are trusted community-based organizations that act as connectors between Indigenous innovators, industry, academia, and funding bodies, ensuring that our programs reach the ground where they're needed. Another priority is to invest in the documentation and integration of Indigenous knowledge within mining innovation. This may include funding for knowledge keeper networks, business development, TEK mapping projects, and inclusion and applied research. Regions should actively support Indigenous entrepreneurship and clean tech initiatives tied to mining and reclamation because innovation opportunities exist beyond extraction. And finally, it's essential to invest in Indigenous digital research and data infrastructure. Without reliable broadband, access to data, and research capacity in communities, participation in innovation economies remains limited. Regional action on these fronts will unlock Indigenous-led sustainable futures. And my last slide. So to close, I want to emphasize that Indigenous knowledge isn't an optional add-on. It's a critical innovation infrastructure for mining regions. Indigenous communities aren't simply stakeholders to be consulted. We're equity partners, we're rights holders, and we're leaders in this work. So the mining sector's sustainable future depends on building Indigenous-led innovation ecosystems where solutions are land-based and aligned with Indigenous values. And this is where the opportunity lies. Miigwech, thank you.
And thank you, Jenny, for taking the time that you needed. I think it's important because we often don't hear sorry. Okay, yes, well, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for the contribution of the panel. And I want to thank Jenny for taking the time that you needed because we do not often have the opportunity to hear from Indigenous voices. So thank you to the OECD for making sure that you've been invited and that your voice has been heard and you took the time that you needed. So thank you very much for sharing with us. And I want to thank all the panelists for their great work. And what this panel has shown is that if we want to innovate and we want to think of a sustainable future, we need a multi-stakeholder collaboration. And we need diverse ideas, diverse diverse thinking. But it also shows that it's not impossible because we've seen what is being done in Canada, but also in Finland, in Sweden, and what the EITI is doing around the world. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions, so I'm going to save my comment for the end so that I can give an opportunity to the audience to ask questions. I would like to suggest that we start by taking 3 questions or probably 4 questions, and then you can say who you want to respond to your questions. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you for the interventions. I have one question for, well, probably for everyone, especially probably the universities and the centers. You mentioned, especially Eric, the relevance of SMEs in the innovation ecosystem is, especially, my question is, which areas do you think are more relevant, these connections of SMEs in the mining innovation chain? If it's for the planning of the mine, for the processing of some tailings, or for the closure? And if automation is coming, how you see this effect on the workers and the people that are working around for mine? Just thank you.
We'll go for the second question. We'll take the questions, then you will answer. Okay. Yeah, so let's go to the second question. We'll take the questions and then they will answer. So is there another question? Okay.
Just a question to Marilu on expansion, because it's very focused on Northern Ontario. Your initiative, it's very interesting to see how you support Indigenous innovations and entrepreneurship. Have you thought about expanding to other areas and other forms of collaboration, of bringing other communities together that have the same interest? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Thank you. Anyone else has a question? Okay. Oh, perfect. We have 2 questions.
Thank you for the panel. My question is to Jenny Lou about you were emphasizing the need to combine Western scientific knowledge with the indigenous knowledge. I'm curious about this, that how is it going? Do you have a lot of this actually successful combining of these 2 knowledge systems? Thank you.
And I think Cecilia had a question. Oh, no? Okay. Okay, there's a question at the back.
Yes, thank you. I would like also to ask Jenny Lou about practical or more concrete examples of this cooperation between indigenous communities and their knowledge and mining companies.
Thank you. I think we'll now go to the answers. Eric, you can start.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I'll try to elaborate it, but keep it short as well. If you look at, you can cut the sausage in 2 ways. You can look at the value chain, or you can look at from the application side. And I think where innovation is most needed is at the end of the value chain, but also in the automation part. But it's more mine closure, remediation, sustainability issues and challenges. But if you look from the application side, the applications that are needed that the mining companies or for that technology providers cannot cope with themselves has to do with AI, has to do with different technology developments, where there are SMEs that are really, really niched and pointy and really technology advanced, but in a small sector. And bringing those innovations into the operations, that could be along the value chain, but then it's application-wise. And there the mining companies need help, need support from external innovation.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll address the question on automation impact on workers. So one of the objectives of the project that I'm currently leading with colleagues across the country, that was one of our major motivating questions, was with the adoption of new technology, what does that mean for workers, but also for the places that are tied to the mining industry, and how will that relationship change if employment in the sector changes? And so we are trying to get a sense of what technologies in Canada are being adopted, what skills those technologies need that might be different than what's currently in the sector, and then what it might mean for employment. And so what we're seeing is, obviously it depends on the types of technologies, but a real interest in the Canadian mining sector in technologies that will help remove workers from the face, which is often seen as one of the more dangerous parts in mining. So looking at ways to kind of restructure where mining happens, also thinking about bringing work from, if you're in an underground environment, to surface. So really kind of changes in how we approach what mining looks like, but also the skills that might have traditionally been needed, and seeing much more on kind of the engineering and software. And so what we're hoping is that we can see what these skill sets are, be able to work with organizations on the ground in communities, particularly skills training, but also economic development, to ensure that jobs stay local and they're not removed to operating centers that are at great distances from mine sites, particularly in places where there are communities near those mines. So trying to ensure that we can have those conversations early before these things start to happen and we're reacting to them. So that's one of the things that we've been trying to understand in the Canadian context. Thank you.
Okay. I like also highlight the role of the subcontractors that are already working on the mines, and I think that for them it's natural to develop the way of working, also in the do work in the safety way, but also in the efficient way, and more in the cost-effective way. So I think that the role of the subcontractors is also very vital when we are speaking about the innovations and how to make things in the clever way.
There was no specific question, but I want to make 2 comments. Things are related. When we talk about automation and remote control, and gender participation before, 20 years ago, when I came to this industry, mining was very for male dominated, because you need to do in the ground and to work now that I visit a mine, Anglo-American mine in the south, in Moquegua, in the south of Peru. It's totally, it's like a NASA space control kind of. So these days, these things are related. So we can have a much better contribution of women in the industry because things have changed. So that's one. But the other question is, Jenny, you say something very strike with me. You say innovation is not only technical things and doing things better water management or whatever, but it's about doing new things. And yesterday we talked a lot about the legacy of this industry, social license to operate. So one innovation is to try to do things differently and be genuinely involved in dialogue, genuinely passing information, learning, explaining, and be transparent. So I think it's a great quote.
So I scribbled down some notes as those questions were coming through. So Enrique, the first one.
All the questions.
So in regards to the center, and if we have any plans to expand beyond Northern Ontario, absolutely. We're in the beginning foundational stages. I know I'm a little bit new in the role, but that is our vision, and recognizing that the mining companies that are operating in Ontario are operating in other jurisdictions, so it just makes sense to expand and offer our services where there's interest. And we've even been having some initial conversations with other Indigenous organizations in Australia, for example, to start to expand that network and share best practices, to develop tools and templates, and have that kind of cross-pollination amongst our brothers and sisters across the world. Now to your question, and I think this might answer the other gentleman's question as well, in regards to combining Western knowledge with Indigenous knowledge. So one of the first examples that I think came to mind was, in Sudbury, and there's the 2 major operators, the Vale and Glencore, and Wanapitei First Nation has been working closely with Vale. And I think one of these examples is recognizing how important our ceremonies are and how important water is to us. So they actually did a water ceremony underground with knowledge keepers and elders in the community. So I think that is one example, but I definitely think that there's still a lot of work to do to incorporate and include our knowledge in the work that is happening, not only in the exploration stage, but also all the way through to closure. Another example that I thought of is something that I heard from a community member, and they were seeing changes in fish behavior where mine effluent outputs were occurring, and they brought this back to the mining proponent and their concerns, and they actually worked together to try to come up with a new solution so that the fish weren't being affected. So just a couple examples.
Thank you. I think Eric had an addition, so you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll have we tend to talk a lot about technical innovation, which is natural because most of us, or some of us at least, are engineers. But at least likewise important, of course, is social innovation. And we have a really good example of that together with one of the Sami villages in Pajala, where they had one of our mines in Pajala. They have really heavy transport via truck from the mine site to Svappavaara, which is 150 kilometers, going right through the reindeer lands. And the innovation or the project is between Satajärvi Sameby. It's called Safe and Sustainable Transport Through Reindeer Husbandry Area. And the project is between Satajärvi Sameby, the 3 mines of Norrbotten, Boliden, LKAB, and Kaunis Iron, Volvo Trucks, and Trafikverket, and some other actors. And the innovation in it, for one, the effect, it's going right through the reindeer lands. And the effect was that the accidents between heavy traffic and the reindeer has decreased by more than 70%. But the innovation of it is more on the collaborative side. The innovation is the dialogue, the mutual understanding between the Sami village and the mining companies and the trucks, or the truck drivers. So we can talk, it's a lot easier to describe and work with technical innovation, but it's equally important to work with social innovation and also show that we have good examples also with that.
Thank you very much. One more question? Okay. Yeah. Did I see another hand or not? Okay, we're going to have one more question.
Maybe a question for Francisco on this EITI. What are the benefits? I mean, you mentioned there's 50 member countries that follow these standards. What are their benefits? Have you done any sort of dialogue or evaluation in terms of what are the countries getting out of this, following these standards? And then in some countries, there's a subnational dimension. Is this a voluntary or not? Because it's you mentioned the case of Peru, but in others not. I'll be curious if you can tell us a bit more also how the evaluation process is happening but to follow these standards. And maybe the other question to Heather on outreach on these government programs for commercialization. I think you mentioned in funding. How do you go to very remote communities? How do you provide access to some of these programs? Can you tell us a little bit about especially in the remote places in Canada?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rikke. On benefits, from various levels, you can look at these various levels. In general, countries adopting the EITI is being associated with getting a better investment climate, more responsible direct investment. And this association, maybe it's not causation, it's just when a country wants to attract and have good rule of the game, good governance framework, they adopt the EITI, so there is an association there. There is another level of benefit, which is in needing to comply with the standard and put all of this information out there. Countries need to revise their own systems, and from very sometimes mundane that the tax office has one code for the companies, but the mining permits have another code. So mundane things like this, but it have also is important for accountability, the good bookkeeping of all of the management of the sector. On more reforms, is countries getting a better deal. There are examples of using the EITI framework, EITI data. Countries have recognized that there were some disadvantage contract signed and with renegotiation of contract to get a better deal for countries. So from various perspectives, there are benefits. On voluntary national, subnational, this is always a tricky question because we said the EITI is in many ways a pseudo-international kind of tool. No, it's not really a treaty, but is in the area of soft law, as they say. So as such, it's adopted by the country voluntarily. So the country said, I want to implement the EITI standard, and this is a voluntary act at the moment. But once you enter in the commitment of implementing the standard, I'm afraid we are very. It's a standard that comes with checking what you said and you commit. You have to do it, and then we go and check that. And this is the boring and obviously more boring in a sense. Part of our job is to check if countries have done it. In terms of regions, if the regions, for example, the Argentina, and here there is a delegation from Mendoza, so you can ask them. It's more flexible how to approach and to adhere to the EITI principles, and in many ways is flexibility there. But again, once in Peru, once you say I'm going to implement the EITI, in Arequipa, there is an EITI Arequipa that produces EITI Arequipa reports, so there is an element of accountability as well. Thank you.
In terms of the access to funding, so if we look at the federal level, there's regional development agencies across the country, and then there will be various provincial or territorial economic development funding agencies as well. Some of the things we often hear when we do research, when we're looking at innovation in rural northern Indigenous communities, is just access to those in terms of having people on the ground that businesses or community can turn to. Also, I think what Jenny Lou said in terms of ensuring that those types of funding programs reflect the needs and priorities on the ground versus often what we see are the political priorities of whatever government might be in power at the federal or provincial level. So I think there's a gap and a disconnect there that can often impact access. There's another network across Canada that receives funding through the federal government called Community Futures. And I think there's upwards of over 250 Community Futures offices across the country. Those are often located in more rural northern communities that are providing direct support to businesses and to communities. Wabatek, I think that Don can probably speak to, and the work that they do. And we're also starting, I think, to see a rise in kind of community-led and owned economic development corporations, Indigenous-led economic development corporations across the country. And so I think that's certainly a really strong opportunity to increase access and ensure that it is more grounded with the needs and priorities on the ground. But ensuring that there is that capacity and the access to the funding to be able to support the amazing work that they're doing.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a really insightful exchange, and thank you for sharing all your insights and the collaborations. Again, for me, this gives me hope because it shows that there are initiatives that are ongoing, and as you said. I mean, innovation is not just about technical innovation, but it's also social innovation. And as Jose was asking the question about how do we also reach some of the rural communities and indigenous communities, I think sustainability is also ensuring that we don't leave anyone behind, that is inclusive, that those where the mining is happening, that those people are also not just negatively impacted. So I think also as for me, one thing I would like to challenge us to think about is how do we take forward what we've learned, you know, so that this is just not another conference or just another chat. So there's been some very creative things here. And to finish, why I say, because sustainability is about what we do, and our actions need to serve today. It's not like tomorrow. It's what can I do today after I've heard all of this? How can we collaborate? How can we work together? And lastly, I would like to end on a quote, because I believe that we all can have an impact. And I always like to say that if you think you are too small to have an impact, it's probably because you've never spent a night with a mosquito. So yeah, so we all can do something positive. So let's start today, and I'd like to thank you all.